Welcome back to the DIY Maker channel. Here we're going to take a look at making a very simple leather sheath for one of my new favorite knives, which is the Olfa craft knife. I've really come to like this thing, and it's a stainless steel knife, so it really doesn't need a lot of protection, but it is actually really nice to have this sheath in your pocket so you're not picking up a bunch of pocket lint. Let's take a look at how this works. So first up, Shkira Leather on Amazon actually supplied this material to me, and it is pre-treated and pre-colored and pre-finished. And I asked them if it was okay to do wet forming with this. They said, "Oh, sure, Bill, go ahead. Not a problem." But I really love the finish on this stuff. It was actually quite pleasant to work with, too. It's buttery soft. It's an oil tan leather. So first thing we're going to do is trim this thing to length and width to kind of prep the blank for the water process. We're just going to soak this thing in water. It's not really all that complicated, but it's going to allow us to wet form this leather. And at first I had a little issue with this not wanting to stay in the container, so I had to add some weights. But we're going to put the lid on this guy, and then we're going to put it aside overnight. I recommend at least 24 hours. The next day I took it out and got rid of my weights to keep it down in Davy Jones's locker, and then just dried it off a little bit. Now I took the blade and the knob out because obviously I don't want those in the way when I'm trying to do the leather forming, the wet forming, because the body of the knife is actually going to be my form. And that's doable with this because it's stainless steel. I don't have to really worry about it interacting with the water in the leather. So what I'm going to do is stretch this around the knife, and then I'm going to wrap it with some plastic film. Now, you could argue I could have skipped this, and had I had some better clamps for holding the leather in place, I probably could have. And I need to make some really thin leather sleeves for these binder clips in the future. But I just used a combination of binder clips and regular spring clamps to kind of get this holding pressure on that leather so that as it dries, it takes the shape of the body of the knife. Yeah, it's going pretty well. I do use my bone folder to kind of redefine some of the 3D shapes in the side. As it was curing, I kept going over them. But yeah, once you get done and you let it sit for a couple of days, it does take a while to dry with the plastic on there, I have to admit. And if you like this content, do give us a subscribe, a like, and hit that bell, all the good fun YouTube stuff. And if you want to share this with your friends, please do. Getting us out on social media really helps the channel a lot. And do check out my affiliate links as well. And now I'm going to use some barge contact cement. You probably don't need to go with barge for this, but man, that stuff is really nice to work with. It dries super fast, and you get a ridiculously strong glue joint. I'm just tapping it closed. I let them dry good, and then I just push them together with the hammer. Doing a test fit here, and I'm really happy with how this fits in there. It is a great fit even before the stitching, which is really what you want. You don't want to rely on the stitching for the fit up. Now I'm going to knock some hole patterns into this thing for the stitching itself, and I am using a finer iron than I typically use because this is pretty thin leather. It's 2 millimeters thick, I think, but absolutely beautiful to feel. I mean, it's got such a buttery soft finish on it. Yeah, so I think we're done poking holes in this thing, and we're gonna pick a nice thread for this. Oh, I forgot. I gotta cut out the hole for the knob. I did flub this up initially. I didn't cut it low enough for the knob, so I had to go back in and do a second cut. You know, not the end of the world. I mean, as long as you line up the die very well, it's not going to be an issue. I did put some leather in there to cushion the blow on the die. And now I think we're ready to put this knife back together because I don't think it needs to be in pieces anymore. And I'll probably lose the parts anyway if I leave them out there long enough. So the knife is really easy to take apart and put back together. Another one of the things I really like about it, if you really don't want to sharpen it, you can just replace the blades. But I will say a little stropping on that blade and it comes right back. Anyway, here's the nice silver thread that I picked. And I'm just doing a traditional saddle stitch on this. I'm not going to bore you with doing a saddle stitch. I'm sure you can figure that out. And once we get it stitched up, I'm going to thermally kind of melt the ends of the stitching and then tap them over just to give them a nice finished look. Then I'm going to use my Japanese knife for leather to kind of guillotine through the leather and get a nice controlled cut to trim this to size. And once we get the overall dimensions done, I wasn't real wild about the really sharp points that it left. I mean, it's a great knife. It's going to leave sharp points if that's the way you're cutting. So I just kind of nipped the corners off to kind of mute them, especially this one on the tip. That was really sharp. And I'm going to seal the edges now and get them ready for burnishing, which I'm also using another product from Shkira on, which is their burnishing wheels and my trusty Dremel. And you want to watch the speed here. You want to slow that down a lot. You don't want to go real fast. You'll build up too much friction. And this project is done. I dressed it up with some paracord. I do love myself some paracord. That's actually a special paracord that's also a fire starter. And, you know, I was really happy with how this all came out. Thanks for watching, everybody. You all have a great day.